告别式将在星期二早上举行，凤凰卫视中文台资讯台现场直播。
With bullets and grenades.
Well, we've been receiving enemy fire, and we return fire, and we're checking to make sure this house isn't occupied by the enemy.
How many in there? Any idea?
No idea.
The Marines spilled off the truck and fanned out to counterattack.
Whether they're Republican Guard or local militia, we're not quite sure, but the Marines are under fire from a house out the back here. They don't know at the moment how many people they're up against.
Minutes later, Cobra helicopters were brought in and fired rockets and machine guns. A further example of how air power has given the Allies the advantage in this war. When all the firing had died down, 4 Iraqi militiamen were dead. But for innocent civilians caught in the middle, the experience can be terrifying. A pregnant woman and her family, whose home overlooked the fighting, didn't know whether to stay or to go.
Shooting on the... that's what?
The helicopter.
Yes, that. About the children, half afraid, very afraid.
Later, the Marines discovered a network of newly dug Iraqi trenches a short distance from the road. They may be lucky to reach Baghdad without once again coming under ambush and attack. David Willis, BBC News, on the outskirts of Baghdad.
So while US troops are making advances, they're also coming under regular fire from Iraqi positions. The BBC's Gavin Hewitt is with America's 3rd Infantry. He came under fire as he sent this report from just outside Baghdad.
There has been a fierce battle today on the western outskirts of Baghdad, as companies from the 3rd Infantry Division pushed down the main highway towards the city. There was heavy artillery fire coming from the Iraqis. It fell either side of the road as we pushed forward. Nearby, we saw more than a dozen Iraqi tanks and armored personnel carriers burning. Dead Iraqis lay on the ground. At least 15 civilian vehicles were caught up in the fighting, and we saw some of their dead lying beside the road. Others huddled in a canal ditch, waving a white flag. The fighting has continued with mortar, artillery, and rocket salvos from the Americans. Although the Iraqis are being overwhelmed, they are putting up determined resistance. Elsewhere, we saw the toll of this war. I saw today at least 60 burnt-out Iraqi tanks and armored personnel carriers. On the main highway, just before the Abu Ghraib turnoff, we saw Iraqi tanks blown to pieces. Dead soldiers were lying on the highway. And here again, 20 civilian vehicles had been destroyed, and at least 5 to 6 bodies lay beside their cars. This has been a day when war, with all its brutality, has come to the western outskirts of Baghdad. Gavin Hewitt, BBC News, on the outskirts of Baghdad.
In the capital.